Hello, my YouTube family. Welcome back to another YouTube video, you guys. Today, I am so excited because we are going to be learning how to draw a face, and this is my updated how to draw face tutorial, which is the perfect timing. I'm sure you all have noticed that my style has been changing, and I've been practicing, and I've been improving as well, so it's actually the perfect time to show you all what I have been doing. So recently I've been practicing drawing faces a little bit, and I don't know if you noticed, but I've started to change the style of how I draw my noses, and I've been practicing with like actually drawing out the nose fully instead of doing like I normally would do, which is like a triangle and then the little circle around it. So I've actually been trying to practice actually drawing the bridge of the nose, you see? So making a more realistic nose in my artwork. It's very slight, but it's definitely more realistic than what I would normally do, which is just kind of like drawing that little triangle like I used to do, which I'll show you an example. Remember, I would show y'all how to draw the triangle like that, like upside down, and then I would just kind of do that. But now I'm shooting for a more realistic style of nose. You can tell, especially in these faces here. So it's definitely shooting toward more of a semi-realistic style, which is what I've always kind of done. And I've just been kind of feeling that a lot more lately. So that's basically what I'm gonna be showing you all. I'm gonna show y'all how I draw faces now. And yeah, we're gonna have a fun time. I'm gonna start out with a light pencil. We're gonna do an H pencil. H pencils are very nice to keep a light hand while you're sketching. Oh yes, and then I'm gonna be using my favorite Graph Gear 1000. This is a really good pencil, but like you don't have to use these tools, but this is just what I'll be using. So yeah, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. Cool. And so now that we have our circle, we're gonna put our little line down the middle. And then I like to make a line for the eyes about a quarter on the circle, like it's like around here. And I like to make it curved too, because you know it keeps you thinking in a 3D aspect. Okay, and normally I will draw the chin and stuff next, but I normally like to start drawing the eyes. So for the eyes, I like to kind of lightly kind of map out the shape, and I use a very light hand for this part. Very, very light. So I can kind of like map it out without, you know, kind of making a final decision, so I can kind of see like the shape, if I want how I want the shape to be and everything. And then when it comes to drawing the eyes, you want to make sure they're at least a little, like an inch away from the sides of the face, kind of like this. So right here. And then to make sure that they're equidistant, you can draw a line from where the middle line is and make sure that the distance in between is equal, and that'll help you. You can also, if you draw on one side, like one eye, just kind of draw the line to the other side so you can make sure that they're on the same level, and this will help you to draw the other eye well. So now they're both in this like little box area, and you can make sure they're looking the same. Okay, so we've got that, and then we can draw pupil and then the eyeball, and if you need to, when you draw one eyeball over here, you can even draw a line to the other side to make sure they're lined up over there as well. we've got the eye. All right, now that we have the eyes down, we can do the nose now. So when it comes to the front view and making the nose, like I haven't really practiced as much with that, making it realistic, but I practice more with like the 3/4 view and making it a little bit more realistic. But I'm gonna do the same approach that I would normally do, which is making that upside down triangle. If you need to, you can kind of draw like a line from the corners of the eye down here to kind of map out where you should place the nose. And then I'm kind of rounding it out here. Okay, so now we have the nose, and now we can do the lips. We're gonna do the lips. Actually, no, let's go ahead and draw the rest of the face. So we're gonna make 2 straight lines, kind of going down like this, and then we're gonna make another line kind of like this. You can keep them straight for now, and then you can round them out later. And then we can do the lips. You can draw a circle for the lips just to kind of map out the area where they're gonna be. And then you can put in the center of the lips here. Corner of the lips coming out like this. That. And I'm going to draw the little eyelid part above the eyes. Eyebrows. So the eyebrows, I like to kind of like make a shape like this over the eye, and then this is going to help you kind of map out where to place it and how to like curve the brow. And you can always like line it up across like this if you need to. And now you can kind of place those brows in. Okay, and then we can place the ears. Even though it's not in the reference picture, we're just using our creative license to put those ears in. And then we can also now round out the face. Round out those corners like such. And now we can start using our mechanical pencil. And I'm gonna start putting the details in for the eyes. And this is just kind of like darkening up the areas. And just really defining everything now that we have it placed lightly. I like how this style definitely looks a little bit more realistic than what I used to do. I used to make the eyes a little bit bigger, so it's like more cartoony-ish. But now I am preferring a more realistic look, so I make the eyes a bit smaller and just make it more closer to realistic proportions. You can lightly put those details into, just kind of sketching it in. And then with the nose, I like to add nostrils in as well here, like this. Another thing I would recommend, now if you don't have this, you can use a Q-tip, but I'm going to take my blending stump and I'm going to form the nose out with it. I really like the look of this. So I do it like that. And then I just kind of define those nostrils a bit more. I try not to make the nostrils too big. And then I like to add the corners of the nose in very lightly, like so. And this will give me a more realistic nose, which I love. And then I kind of define the bottom part a little bit too. Okay. And now I can define the lips. I love emphasizing like the corners of the mouth and just kind of not connecting it all the way. I don't know, that's just always been something I like. And defining the bottom lip. And then we can just continue to define areas and darken areas up. Notice how I'm slightly curving inward when it comes to the side of the face instead of keeping it straight. It gives a little bit more of a realistic look. And then also when I come down here to the chin, I do a slight curve inward as well, and I just kind of bring it out like that. Ears, just and then for the ears, I like to do this. Feel free to add any jewelry or piercings or whatever you want for your character. You can make the eyeliner thicker if you want. I'm thinking about just keeping it a little natural. But slowly kind of thickening it up at like the corners. And also when it comes to the eyes, look at like the white part, which is called the sclera, on both sides, and kind of just make sure they're equal. And now it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does help, you know, with making everything look cohesive and nice. And then one thing I love doing is shading in the whole iris area. It's just, I don't know, I like doing that for my simple sketches. It just looks really good. And then for the eyebrows, I kind of just do like this little flick of the wrist with my wrist, and just fill them in, kind of like you're filling in your brows for makeup, and just adding those strands in lightly. And sometimes I'll define the end pieces of the brow by just kind of going back and like darkening the ends up a little bit, just to kind of add a little bit more character to the brow, add a little bit more definition. And so this is looking really good so far. Another thing that I like to do with the eyes is I like to kind of add like a little eye fold kind of under a little bit. Don't do that too much though, because it can make your character look a little bit older. But if you kind of do like a little small area, it just, I don't know, it just adds extra detail, which I like. Okay, and now I'm gonna kind of add a little bit of eyelashes in, just using like the flick of my wrist. And I just do a little bit of lash. You can do bottom lashes too if you like. And now for the top part of the head, I just kind of sketch it out like so. If you need to, you can kind of make a line here and then just kind of connect it like you're connecting like a half sun or something. And just lightly sketch it out and form it until it looks, you know, like a nicely done skull or scalp or head or whatever. And then you'll have something to where you can put the hair and everything. And yeah, and then also for the lips, I like to go in with a blending stump. If you don't have one, you can use a Q-tip, and I just kind of blend the top part instead of drawing it in. And then I can do the same for the bottom a little bit, kind of do like the outer corners. And that just really brings those lips in nicely. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. And the little like lines that we made here for everything, you can erase it, or you can kind of like, you know, use it for shadowing if you decide to use the blend stump. I'm gonna erase it. So now we can erase those lines. Cool thing about kneaded erasers is that if you need it to be a little bit smaller to get more detail, you can kind of just knead it to the shape that you need. And this is the ELO sketchbook, by the way. You can get it on Amazon or my Amazon faves. I'll actually put the link in for it. I think they should still have it on there. But this is such a nice sketchbook. I mean, it just makes your drawing so smooth, and it's perfect for a kneaded eraser. I'm gonna have to go back in and add some more of those lashes. Even erase a little bit in the lips for a highlight, but actually I didn't shade enough for it to do that yet. So alrighty, so we've erased those guidelines. Now what we can do, and this is optional, you don't have to, but I'm going to show y'all how to do like a little light shading with it. Let me erase those lines here. This came out really cute. Better than I expected, actually. Because every time I draw a face, they always come out looking different anyways, but most of the time they come out the same. Depends on too if I'm using a reference or not, or whatever. So yeah, this is how to draw a face. Front view, I'm gonna do a quarter view for you all as well, because I love those quarter views. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. But this front view, I actually really like this front view. It looks really good, because normally I don't draw front views just because it's kind of boring, but this, yeah, I am loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, you know. Oh my gosh, I'm so cheesy. Okay, just defining the iris a little bit. If you want, you can go in and you can add your pupil. Oh, it looks so good. Look at her. She's pretty. Okay, girl, I see you. So she looks real good. And now I'm gonna show y'all how to do like a little light shading. So when it comes to shading, I use a very light hand. You can take your H pencil if you want. I'm gonna just use my mechanical pencil. And I like to start out by shading the inner corners of the eye. So there's always a little bit of shadow going on in the inner corner. And this is just kind of like a base shadow formula that I use when I shade. So like even if, for example, even if the photograph or the reference doesn't have that shadow, I'll still add it, because I know that this is an area where the eye is it's a little sunken in, because you got the brow bone and you've got where the eye socket is, so you're gonna have some shadow in the corner. So even if maybe your reference doesn't have that shadow because maybe the light is so bright, you can still add it in just for your creative license. That's your creative license. You can just do whatever you want, and it still looks amazing. And so notice how I'm using a cross hatching motion, and keep it in the same direction as much as you possibly can. And just lightly, and see how I switched directions, so you can do that and just lightly kind of add that in there. Then I put some over here, because I always notice, like, you can't really see it that much, but there's a little shadow that kind of wraps around that brow bone. And I'm just lightly kind of using those cross-hatching motions. Forget what I said about going the same direction, just kind of lightly, you know, use those cross-hatching motions to get that shadow effect. So yeah. And then I put a little shadow, like kind of going over the eyelid, because you know you've got some shadow there. And then I like to put a little shadow here on the sides of the face, like such. And then some here. And use a very, very light hand for this. And then we can put some more shadow in the lips if we want. Under the nose, I always love putting a little bit more shadow under the nose here. Just adds more depth, adds some more shadow to the eyes. And see how it just gradually it just adds more oomph, you know? Put some here as well, just very lightly. Some on the sides of the forehead, the temple, and I'm just doing it very lightly. Darkening up the lash line a little bit. little button nose a little bit. I take my blending stump and blend the lips a little bit again. And the nose, just a tad bit. I don't want to take out too much of the crosshatch because the crosshatch look, it gives it that texture. So you don't want to use the blending stump too much, but it all depends on your preference too. Going back in a little bit more on the lips with the crosshatch technique. And yeah, this is how I draw a face now. Definitely looks a lot different from my first tutorial. Oh my goodness. So this was definitely needed. Adding a little bit more flair to those lashes. And like I said, if you want to make the eyeliner thicker, experiment with that, you can. Then I also like to kind of darken up the limbal ring, which is the dark ring that's around the iris. They call it a limbal ring. And you can darken that up more too if you want the eyes to stand out more. You can thicken that as well, and you can also add a little bit more shadow in the eyes with the cross hatching. We're just using your line work. Darkening up the pupil again. And if you want highlight, you can either use your eraser and, you know, erase an area in the eye for highlight. I kind of did that the wrong area, but you know what I'm trying to do. You can do that, or you can go in with the gel pen. And then once you erase it, you can, I forgot, you guys, make sure you warm up too before you start. You probably already started, but you know, warming up will definitely help too if you need to. If you feel a little bit rusty, you know, just kind of practice drawing like some circles or some shapes and stuff in the beginning. That'll definitely help next time. Okay, so yeah, I'm just continuing to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more cross hatching. And then back to what I was saying, when you make those highlights, you can define them by kind of going on the outsides of them and just, yeah, drawing them in like such. And if you don't want to erase the highlight in, you can use like a white gel pen, which also works very well as well. And then if you want, you can also define the top part of the lip. You can draw just, I like to draw just the Cupid's bow area for the lips. Instead of like drawing the whole line, because it just looks more natural. And it gives a very nice look. So I just define the Cupid's bow area. And that's optional too, because it did just look good with the smudge. Kind of smudge it out just a tad. It looks good. And yep. You can put a little shadow in the ears as well. I'm just defining it. And there we have it. We have a beautiful face. And yeah, this is how I would draw the face now. Wow, such a big difference. Such a big difference from when I was drawing faces. I don't know, when was it? I must have posted that like what, 2021, 2020, I don't know. I have to look, but this is a huge difference. And notice how I'm kind of like, when I define the lips, I kind of leave like a little space from that bottom portion, and middle portion, you can kind of erase into that a little bit. And that kind of just adds a little extra oomph to it as well, which is nice and optional. So it's up to you. The more you draw, the more you'll like figure out, ooh, I like this or I don't like that. If you want to, you can also add a little light shadow in the eyes to kind of, you know, make it a little bit more realistic, because, you know, realistically the sclera part of the eye is gonna have a little bit of a shadow, because, you know, the eyelid and everything. Or yeah, so this is optional as well, but I just added in to make it a little bit more realistic. And it's cute. And if you want to, you can use the blending stump, and you can, you know, blend out some areas a bit. Sometimes I'll blend out this part with the blending stump, and it makes it look pretty. Or you can just keep it all cross hatching. So or you can just do a mixture of the two, cross hatching and, you know, the blending stump. They both give a very beautiful effect. So it all depends on your preference. I just wanted to show you a little bit of both. And see, I'm kind of going back in to add some of the cross hatch because I like that look. It just, I don't know, I love the sketchy feel. That's why I love like drawing traditionally. It's just so satisfying. Just lightly adding some lines in this white area so it's not just, you know, all white. But yeah, this looks good. I don't want to do too much before I, you know, because, you know, less is more too. But yeah, this looks really good. This turned out better than I expected, so praise the Lord. Alrighty guys, so I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial on how to draw a face. This is my updated how to draw a face. I really love how it came out. As you can tell, I am doing a more semi-realistic style again and making it more realistic, mixed with that cute cartoony vibe-ish, you know, anime-ish, Disney-ish. Little bit of realistic, you know, semi-realistic, you know what I'm saying, a little semi-realistic style. And I hope that you guys learned a lot from this. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, y'all, I will see you all in the next tutorial. Love you guys so much. Peace, love, and God bless, my loves. Bye.